This is the Double Edge Factor, where high performance meets peace of mind and faith meets focus. I am your host, Rod Manuel, and peace and blessings unto you. Before we get going, be sure to like, follow, and hit that subscribe button, because the more positive interactions you put out there, the more they push this podcast to people who've never heard it before, which, of course, will allow us to grow, reach new ears, and have a greater impact on more people around the world. And if you want 2026 to be the year that you perform and live at your highest level, head on over to rodmanuel.com. That's RODMANUEL.com. Join that email list and remember to like, follow, and subscribe. Okay, let's talk about something most people avoid. Self-forgiveness. Not forgiving others, but forgiving yourself. Because a lot of people aren't stuck because of what happened to them. They're stuck because of what they keep replaying in their head. Old decisions, those missed chances, words you shouldn't have said, moves you wish you would have made differently. And instead of we learn from those things from our past, you just keep living in them. And here's the hard truth. Growth slows down when guilt stays in control. You see, you can't move forward while you're dragging yesterday behind you. There are 3 reasons why self-forgiveness is essential for your growth. Number 1, self-punishment keeps you mentally trapped in the past. Number 2, unforgiving guilt distorts how you see yourself. And number 3, self-forgiveness restores momentum. So, let's break those 3 down. Self-punishment. Self-punishment keeps you mentally trapped in the past. Every time you replay old mistakes, your mind is no longer in the present. You're not making decisions from who you are now. You're actually reacting from who you were then. What does that mean? That means you hesitate when you should act. You overthink when you should trust. And you could possibly shrink when you should step forward. So you're not moving forward at full speed because of part of you that is stuck trying to fix something that already happened. You see, growth requires forward motion. Guilt just pulls you backwards. Number 2, unforgiving guilt distorts how you see yourself. Here's what guilt does when it's unchecked. It quietly changes your self-talk. Instead of saying things like, I made a bad decision, you start saying things like, I always mess things up, or I'm not good at this, or I don't deserve better. Now the mistake is no longer an event. It's a pattern in your mind. And when you believe that lie, you stop expecting good outcomes, even when you're prepared for them. You don't fail because you're incapable. You fail because that guilt has convinced you to accept less from yourself. Number 3, self-forgiveness restores momentum. I like to call momentum as confidence in motion. When you forgive yourself, you free up energy that was being wasted on regret. When that energy comes back, it will come back as, say, clarity, courage, um, willingness to try again. And you stop saying things like, dang, I hope I don't mess this up. And you start saying stuff like, I know how to handle this better. You see, that shift changes everything, because growth accelerates when the past is no longer an authority over your decisions. Here's a line I want you to hear clearly, okay? Guilt is a behavior, not an identity, okay? I'm gonna say it again. Guilt is a behavior, not an identity. You did something wrong. You are not something wrong. You see, mistakes are events, not labels. When you turn guilt into your identity, you stop saying, I made a bad decision. You start saying, I'm a bad person. And you see, that's a dangerous shift. Because when guilt becomes identity, growth feels like betrayal to who you think you really are. All right, let's look at my man Peter. So Peter didn't just mess up. He denied Jesus publicly 3 times, right? If anyone had a reason to stay stuck in guilt, it was probably him. But Jesus didn't say, Peter, explain yourself. He didn't shame him. He didn't reduce him to his worst moment. Jesus just asked one question: do you love me? Then he gave Peter responsibility again. Why is that? Because failure didn't redefine Peter's identity. It refined his assignment. Peter had to forgive himself, or he would have never stepped into that new leadership. Let's be honest. Self-punishment feels productive, but it isn't. It doesn't undo your past. It doesn't make you wiser faster. It doesn't improve your humility. Um, all it does is delay that healing that you need. You see, if shame could fix you, it would have worked by now. And you see, growth requires clarity, not cruelty. So, how do you begin to forgive yourself? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's start with separating the facts from self attack. This is a step, and this is your first step. It's a non negotiable, okay? State what happened without character assassination. Not, I was stupid, but I made a decision without enough information. Not, I ruined everything, but that choice had consequences I didn't anticipate. Facts create reality. Self attack creates paralysis. If you wouldn't speak to a friend that way, you don't get to speak to yourself that way either. That's not grace. That's emotional maturity. Number 2, extract the lesson instead of reliving the pain. Pain only has value if it teaches you. So ask, what did this reveal about me? What do I know now that I didn't know then? What would I do differently next time? You see, once the lesson is learned, the pain has done its job. Continuing to replay it after the point is not wisdom. That's punishment. And punishment was never meant to be permanent. Number 3, release the internal sentence. So most people don't realize this, but they've already sentenced themselves. You already admitted the mistake. You already felt the regret. You already learned the lesson. Yet you keep reconvincing yourself daily about it. And that's really not accountability. That's emotional overserving. So at some point, growth requires you to say, you know what? I've paid the debt in lessons, and now it's time to move forward. Number 4, reframe the narrative with truth. This is where transformation begins. So instead of saying things like, this mistake defines me, you say things like, this experience refined me. Instead of, I should have known better, now you could say, I know better. See, that small shift in language rewires how your brain stores that memory. The past stops being a weapon and becomes wisdom. Number 5, practice compassion without excuses. Self-forgiveness doesn't mean minimizing a mistake. It just means acknowledging it. So without letting it control your identity, you hold yourself responsible and show some compassion at the same time. That balance creates emotional strength. Okay, I want you to ask yourself, what mistake am I punishing myself for? What lesson did I already learn from it that I'm ignoring? Here's here's the line that I want you to sit with as we wrap up today. You don't honor your growth by staying stuck in guilt. You honor it by moving forward with wisdom and making peace with it. So I asked you to forgive yourself, not because it didn't matter, but because what you're becoming matters even more. that is it for today. If this episode added value, clarity, or even one push you needed, share it with someone who's been carrying unnecessary guilt. The only way we grow this podcast is when you guys share it. The more you share, the greater impact that we can have around the world. And if you want 2026 to be your year that you perform and live at your highest level, head on over to rodmanuel.com. That's RODMANUEL.com, where you'll find resources, coaching tools, and more to help you live, lead, and perform at your highest level. You can also order a copy of my latest book, Faith on Demand, which is also available on Amazon, as well as other exclusive content. And as I always say, be intentional with your words, be intentional with your thoughts, and be intentional with your actions. And always find a way to be a blessing to someone else today.